Hi, in this video, we will discuss about data representation. Data refers to the symbols that represent people, events, things, and ideas. But in a technological standpoint, data refers to a text or character, number, color in a photograph, or sound that needs to be processed by computer. So later on, we will discuss how this color, text, or number, or sound are being processed by our computer. Since data and instructions cannot be entered and processed into our computers using human language, we use binary number system to represent these values. So we all know in our previous video that binary number systems only use symbols like ones and zeros, since our computer are consists of wires that can only have two states, which is on and off. Data representation refers to the form in which data is stored and processed and transmitted in our computer. And the process is called the digitization. Digitization is the process of converting information such as text, numbers, photo, or music into digital data that can be manipulated by electronic devices, just like our computers or cell phones. Once this information is collected, it is saved as a file with a specific type of file format. So the type of file format that we could see or most commonly used is the .docx for files and .png, .jpg for images or photos, .mp3 for music, and many more. A computer may contain different types of file formats. Most of the standard file formats are the txt files or .text, the WAV or mp3 for music, BMP and JPEG for images, and many more. Let's talk about digitization of text files. Text files contains text which is represented as binary in our computer. Inside of our computer or text file is a huge collection of numbers stored as binary. Say for example, if we type a character or a sentence, it would look something like this. It's a huge collection of numbers of ones and zeros. This is how our computer or electronic devices sees our uh, entered text or files or in our files, and this will be processed by our computer. We can view this as a decimal value instead. So we can convert this into decimal value to lessen the complexity of that binary collection of numbers. Let's assume that once we convert it into binary or this binary number into decimal, it would result to something like this, a collection of decimal value. And we could look up to our ASCII table and locate what are the characters associated with these decimal numbers. Say for example, for 72, it is H, capital H. 101 is small letter E. The 108s are small letter L, and so on. Digital devices employ several types of codes to represent character data, including ASCII, Unicode, EBCDIC, and their variants. When we have some text and we want to either store it inside the computer, we need to convert it to binary representation because that's the only language a binary-based computer can understand. Let's talk about ASCII. ASCII codes are used for numerals such as social security numbers and phone numbers. Plain unformatted text is sometimes called the ASCII text and is stored in a so-called text file with a name ending in .txt. If you're using laptop or desktop, you could head on to your start button or Windows button and hit it, and then you could just type notepad, and a new window for notepad will appear, and once you save some text inside of it, you will see some ASCII text or unformatted text, and once you save it, you have the choice to save it as a .txt file. Here is how it looks like, unformatted or plain text. So it doesn't have a formatting. Doesn't look like this encoding scheme. So as you could see, the formatting of this word hello is not formatted. So this is just a plain text. In order for us to create documents with styles and formats, formatting codes have to be embedded in the text. And one of the most commonly used file format that can format plain text into other form is the docx, which is produced by creating a document using MS Word. So we will know more about this docx on our next video. Let's move on to digitization of audio. In digitizing sound or audio, we need to consider some parameters that determine the amount of information stored in a file and the quality of the digital sound, like the bitrate, size of the file, and header or format header. So when we say header, it is a part of the audio's metadata that provides a specification on the file type, sample rate, sample size, and bit size of the file. Bitrate, it is the number of bits that are conveyed or processed per unit of time. So when we say metadata, it is the data inside the data. For example, in our audio, the data inside the data of that audio is like the title of the song, the release date of that song, the singer of that song. So the audio itself is a data, and the data inside that data is the metadata that provides additional information or specification of that file, including the file type, sample rate, and sample size or bit of size of file. When a sound is captured, our digital microphone samples the sound pressure thousands of times to create digital sounds. For example, we have the analog sound, which is the rough waveform or the sound that should be captured by our computer sound card or microphone. And then this microphone will process those analog sound into its digital sound format. Okay, so it would look something like this. Okay. Each sample can be represented as a number. As you can see here, these are the levels or numbers that can be used in sampling this waveform. And then these are the sample. Larger numbers means higher sound pressure, and it is called the amplitude. And here is the amplitude, the higher sound pressures. And there are thousands of amplitudes stored in every second of an audio. So this is just a sample audio, and each sample can be represented as a number. Say for example, this part is 1. So the more sampling of the audio would result in a good quality of sound. Okay, so as you notice, when you downloaded a song or audio, the higher the file size, the better the quality it could give you once you play the sound or treat the sounds to your cell phones. So these are the representation of the audio once it is processed by our computer. Once played, an audio program needs to actuate the computer speaker. So the computer would process this tiny bits of samples and actuate it to our computer speaker. And for the last part, the digitization of pictures. In our computer, pictures are made up of tiny square element called the pixel. So pixel called picture element, or also called picture element, is the smallest unit of a digital image or graphic that can be displayed and represented on a digital display device. So each element or pixel is a combination of three colors: red, green, and blue. These are called the additive primary colors, and they can be mixed together to create any other color on our electronic display. So just like in our audio, We also consider some parameters in digitizing our image like the height, width, file size, and color depth. So suppose that you have a 4x4 pixel image with a 24-bit color depth. So that means 8-bit for red, 8-bit for green, and 8-bit for blue. And we all know that an 8-bit is equivalent to 1 byte, and the smallest value that it can store is 0, and the largest is 255. Okay, so let's say we have this 4x4 pixel image, and this color blends together in our computer to form a new color. So for example, we have the red, green, and blue. So once we mix them together, we'll be able to form new colors from these three primary colors. Okay, so let's say we have an 8-bit for red, 8-bit for green, and blue. Say for example, for the first pixel element, we have a combination of 255 for red, 0 for green, and 255 for blue. Once we mix them together, so we'll just ignore the green since it is 0. So once we mix red and blue, it would result to fuchsia. Okay, so next, 255 for red and 255 for green would result to yellow, and 0 for red, 0 for blue, and 0 for green would result to black, and 255 for red, 255 for blue and green would result to white. So in summary, class, data representation refers to the form in which data is stored, processed, and transmitted in our computer. Digitization is the process of converting information such as text, numbers, photo, or music into digital data that can be manipulated by electronic devices. Digital devices employ several types of codes to represent character data, including ASCII, Unicode, EBCDIC, and their variants. Plain unformatted text is sometimes called ASCII text and is stored in a so-called text file with a name ending in .txt. When a sound is captured, our digital microphone samples the sound pressure thousands of times to create digital sound. And in our computer, pictures are made up of tiny square element called pixel. And that's all for our video. Thank you, and see you in our next video.